Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name's Chloe. Thanks for being here. Today I am here with the frustrating book tag. Now I had not really seen this tag before, so I will link the original video down below, but I saw it on Liz from For Booking Out Loud's channel a couple of days ago and just thought, yeah, that's something I want to do. So here I am today. I haven't been tagged, but you know what, I'm not going to let that stop me. So the first question, name a book that you predicted would be 5 stars but wasn't. Now, I feel like I've seen a lot of polarising opinions on this one in the last few days on BookTube, and I'm going to be in the negative camp, so I'm really sorry, but Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. I really wanted to love this book, as the question would suggest. I thought it would be 5 stars. It's about sort of witches mixed with the suffragette movement, feminism. It sounds right up my alley. It sounds like the sort of thing that I would absolutely love. And also, can we just appreciate how gorgeous this book is? I mean, the cover anyway is beautiful, but then I got the Theillumicrate version, so it's got sprayed edges and it's a signed edition. And oh my god, I went into this book with such high hopes. And I didn't hate it by any means. I think I ended up giving it 4 stars. I believe it was between 3 and 4, but the reason was just that stuff was happening, but it still felt very, very slow, and it felt like the story that I wanted it to be kind of kicked in the last, I don't know, 100 pages, but it's about a 500-page book, and it took to about page 400 for me to actually get to the part that I was invested in. It took me so long to connect with any of the characters. It's about 3 sisters, and I can't really tell you much about any of the individual sisters, and I only read this about 3 months ago. So yeah, I wanted to love it. It should have been right up my alley, but unfortunately wasn't for me. I am still tempted to pick up Alex E. Harrow's first book, which was 10,000 Doors of January. I've heard good things about that, and I'm hoping that it's not sort of just me not liking her book things, because that one also sounds really interesting to me, but we'll see. It was a disappointment. I figured out I don't really like talking about books I don't like. I find it difficult because I feel really bad if somebody else liked it. But actually that's to do with a question later on, so we'll get to that in a minute. Question number 2. What book had a great beginning but an ending that let you down? So for this one, it will be A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Brigid Kemmerer. So again, I wanted to love this book. I took a while reading this. I only read it last year, and there'd been sort of hype around it for a while. By the time I read it, the 3rd and final book was about to be released, so there was definitely a lot of hype around it. Again, I have a beautiful copy. This is the Fairy Loot edition. It's got these holographic edges to it, and I just wanted to love it, and I did really enjoy it at the beginning. For anyone that doesn't know, this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but with kind of like a parallel world twist to it. So you had the character of Harper, who is from our world, and then something happens one night. She ends up pulled into this other world where there is a prince called Ren who has a deadly curse on him, which, as you can probably guess, is to do with him turning into some type of beast, because it is a Beauty and the Beast retelling. And at the beginning, I really enjoyed this story. I really liked all of the dynamics that were going on between the characters, not just a romantic relationship, but also there was a relationship between Ren and a character called Grey, and that is actually the part that let me down a little bit. By the time it got to the end and there were all sort of things happening and reveals and twists and all that sort of stuff, I don't know, I just didn't really like it. And then what happened was I got spoiled a little bit for what happens going forward in the series, and the way that this one ended could have been fine if it kind of looped itself back around by the time it got further on in the series, but from what I've heard from what happens later on, it goes in the exact opposite direction from where I would want it to go. So I've decided that I'm probably not going to be picking up the rest of this series, and yeah, it's a bit disappointing because I did really enjoy it at the beginning, but by the time it got to the end, it just wasn't, it's not something that I plan on carrying on with. Question number 3. Do you have a book with a pretty cover but an ugly spine? Now, I have searched my bookcases and I can't actually find one for this. There's some that I can see where I don't like the spine, but generally I also don't really like the cover. But also I am quite picky with some of the books that I buy, so I will buy the prettier special editions of things just so my shelves look nicer. I will replace copies if a newer, nicer edition comes out. I did that with Vicious. I mentioned that in a previous video. I had this cover that I really didn't like. It kind of made it look like a spy drama, and then the special edition came out, so I unhauled that original cover as quickly as I could, and now I just had the beautiful ones on my shelf, and that's what I tend to do. So no, I don't really have an answer for this. I have some ugly spines, but the covers are also ugly as well, so, and a lot of those are on my TBR shelf, so if I don't like them, they're going straight away because they are not making my shelf look nice. Question number 4. Do you have a book series that doesn't match? So this can be a cover change, or it can be a difference in sort of hardback and paperback, and I have both versions of this. So the first one, I actually don't have the full collection yet, but I will do in the coming weeks. That is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. So you might be able to see behind me that I have got a full set of matching hardcovers for this. Again, as I mentioned in my last video, I think I only read this at the beginning of the year. I've had that set for quite a few years now, but I only got around to reading it at the beginning of this year. By the time I read it, the Theillumicrate special edition box set had all completely sold out. Kicked myself because I really contemplated buying it last year without having read it, and I didn't, which was silly of me because now I absolutely love this series. I have ended up buying books 2 and 3 from Theillumicrate in the hardcover, beautiful 10th anniversary editions signed by Laini Taylor, in the hopes that I could track down the hardcover version of the first book. Tried to get it in the past item sale and that didn't go well for me, so I have ended up buying a paperback version because the cover is available in paperback in general stores in the UK, but the hardback version was exclusive to Theillumicrate. So it's still the beautiful cover with brimstone on there. It's still signed by Laini Taylor, but it will be a paperback next to a hardback collection, which, I mean, if anyone knows where I can track down the hardback Theillumicrate Daughter of Smoke and Bone without paying a small fortune, please let me know, but I'm losing hope for it day by day because the prices on eBay are extortionate. I also have a sort of mismatch of paperback and hardback with, can't actually remember the name of the series, but Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi. So in the UK, the first book in the series was released in paperback. There was a beautiful Waterstones edition that had sprayed edges, and I managed to get that one. I was so excited for this book coming out, and I was right to be because I adore this series. I can't wait for the third one to come out. I don't know actually if there's been an update on that recently because the second one got pushed back originally, and then I don't know when we're expecting the third one, but that is off topic. What then happened is this book was very, very popular. So by the time they got to the second book coming out, they decided, let's put it in hardback. So yeah, we have a hardback copy of Children of Virtue and Vengeance, which I hate when they do this. I get why, that if a book's going to be quite a big release, they make more money from hardback, so they will generally release it in hardback. But if you're going to do that, please release like a special edition of the first one so that I can at least have a matching set. Because the covers, the actual pictures match, like the style matches, but that doesn't look great on my shelf, does it? Hopefully at one point they might do a hardback version, or I could, I suppose, try and hunt down the US version of the first book, but then I worry that the size will be different because UK paperbacks tend to be a different size from American ones. I don't know. For now, they're just sitting on my shelf mismatched, as is the other series I have for this answer, which is actually a cover change, which is Carry On and Wayward Sun by Rainbow Rowell. So I actually love both of these covers, but I just wish they'd picked one and carried on with it. That sounds like a pun. It wasn't, sorry. So Carry On has this beautiful illustrated cover, which is, actually I'll show you this one. This is Simon and Baz on the front, but then when you take off the dust jacket, you have them moving a little bit closer so you can see that it is indeed a love story. And I really love this cover. Always have. They did a colouring in version of this, I believe, for the paperback, where you actually, it was just the outlines, you could colour it in yourself, which I thought was a really cool idea. But yeah, loved this, really enjoyed the book, went to pick up Wayward Sun, and I love this cover for Wayward Sun. It's beautiful with the illustrations on there, so you have Simon and Baz. This matches the paperback version of Carry On, and for the final book in the series, which is Anywhere the Wind Blows, it's going to match this one. but they haven't released a hardback version of with this style on there. They have done it in America. I believe it was a pre-order campaign where you could get a dust jacket to put on your original copy of Carry On so it would match, but they haven't done it over here, so I am stuck with the mismatched covers, although I do have the beautiful floral sprayed edges. Although again, can we talk about the fact that they did the floral sprayed edges but then left the top and the bottom completely blank? I know that it's more difficult to like do this all the way around, but could you not have at least done that blue? Anyway, that's not the point, but it is frustrating book tag, so that frustrates me to no end. I believe when my copy of Anywhere the Wind Blows comes, it's going to be the same, so it's still going to be the floral edges, and it's probably going to be the same where the top and the bottom aren't done. But yeah, so frustration that it doesn't match, and frustration that it's a little bit of an awkward design. Anyway, question number 5. Is there a book from your youth that you can remember parts of but cannot remember the name or find anywhere? Not that I know of. Like, I know my sister had this once where there was a book that I remember, I think a teacher read it to us in an assembly at school, and she ended up reading it and then years later wanted to reread it but couldn't remember the name of it. She can remember like the brief synopsis of it, and she searched for it online and just has not been able to find it. I haven't had this happen as far as I know. Like, I can remember most books I read as a kid because I tended to read a lot of series. Also, I kept a lot of books when I was a kid. So I have on my bookshelves behind me, I have another row of bookshelves down here, another one over there. I have a small little bookshelf over on there which has got classics and things like that on there. And then I have a trunk at the end of my bed as well. And that one has a lot of my childhood books in there and sort of young teenage books as well. So that is full of like Meg Cabot with Princess Diaries and all that sort of stuff. A lot of Sabrina the Teenage Witch books. We've got a lot of Mary Kate and Ashley books. All the Roald Dahl books are down there as well. So all of my sort of like teenage children's books are in there. I am a book hoarder, so I found it very difficult. All my Jacqueline Wilson books are also in there. So yeah, like I read a lot by the same authors. So there's not many where I sort of don't remember what the name was and I need to track it down. That being said, I could have just completely forgotten it, and at some point in the near future I'm just suddenly going to go, what was that book? But so far it hasn't happened to me. Question number 6. Are there many books that you are certain you have read but can't remember a thing about? Again, not really, although there are some books, kind of like how I was saying at the beginning with Once and Future Witches, like I can tell you the vague synopsis of it, but I can't tell you specifics, even though I only read it a couple of months ago. If I don't love a book, that will happen, where if I end up having a conversation about it, my mind will be jogged quite quickly, but I won't be able to give you a full synopsis of it off the top of my head. I mean, there's some books that I love that I also still can't do that. I'm rereading Strange the Dreamer later on this month, and I, again, can tell you the basics of it, can't actually tell you the specifics, and can't really tell you how it ended. Maybe ask me again next month when I end up doing the reread of Muse, and then I'll be like, yes, I remember this one now, it's fine. But yeah, generally there isn't anything where I'm like, I know I've read it but I can't remember reading it at all. It'll just be the specifics of it. Number 7, and I'm going to have to read this one off the computer because it's a very long question. Have you ever recommended a book you love to someone and they started telling you everything they don't like about it? Does it bother you? In other words, do your feelings get hurt when someone doesn't love one of your favourite books? So, 2-part answer to this. Number 1, I take book recommendations very seriously, so I will generally only recommend a book to somebody if I think that they will enjoy it. There's been a couple of times where it's been sort of hit and miss. Like, for example, I gifted a book to my sister that I was like, I honestly don't know if you're going to like this, but I want you to try it. But more likely than not, I've thought for quite a while about what book I'm going to recommend somebody, and I like to be as sort of tailored as possible in the hope that they will enjoy it. The other thing is, so is that if I recommend a book to somebody that I loved and they didn't love it, that's fine. We all have different reading tastes. There are plenty of books that I have been recommended either from somebody I know or sort of through BookTube, and it's like, if you like this, you're going to love this. And then I've read it and I'm like, no, not really. And that, again, that's fine. Everyone has different tastes. My only sort of issue comes where if I've recommended a book to somebody, they then hate it and then they kind of judge me for liking it in the first place, because again, if I'm not judging you for not liking it, you can't judge me for liking it. But yeah, I would hope that if somebody disliked a book that I loved, or vice versa, if I disliked a book that somebody else loved, I'd hope it'd just open up some sort of discussion really, and that we could have a nice conversation about books in general. Even if somebody enjoyed a book but they just didn't enjoy it quite as much as I did, then that can lead to a nice discussion about sort of, well, why wasn't it a 5-star for you? I just like talking about it, so let's have a discussion rather than a disagreement. There we go. I have lost the page. Okay. Number 8. What is your worst experience with loaning out a book to somebody? I don't loan out my books. I generally, well, no, tell a lie, I do. I loan out my books to family. I can't say I really loan them out to friends. I feel like there has been a time where I've loaned a book out to somebody and never got it back, but I can't remember exactly what book it was, which shows that it probably wasn't that important in the long run. I did loan out my copy of The Hate You Give to my mum when I first bought it. This isn't my original copy, this is my second copy, because she gave it me back, and all of these sort of like covering, you know how like the cover of a book will have like a overlay to it that gives it that sort of like shiny feel to it. All of that was basically peeling off all in the corners, and it was a mess. The spine was awful on it. It just wasn't good at all, and I was not happy because it's a 5-star amazing book. She went out and bought me a new copy, so that's what this is. And from there on, I have introduced her to the world of book sleeves, and she's very, very careful whenever she lends anything. It meant my sister got a new book out of it because she ended up being gifted my old copy. But yeah, so that's probably the only time I've had like a difficult experience, and that because I don't generally lend books unless I know I can trust the person. Okay, again, a long question. Question 9. Show me some of your impulse buys that you've never read. You know, the ones you bought at midnight whilst online shopping, or when you were walking through a bookstore and the magic of all the books made you grab a few too many, and we can't forget all those books at such a good price that somehow made it into our shopping bags. So I haven't actually grabbed these because they are in the most difficult place to reach down there, but for me it is probably the entirety of the Percy Jackson series and then the Heroes of Olympus series as well. Now don't get me wrong, I do eventually plan on reading these. I've read 2 of them so far, but like it's over 10 books that I have in total, and I bought them as box sets. They were in TK Maxx, I believe, and they were like £10 for each box set, and I was like, well, that's a really good deal because normally they're like £6.99 each per book, so why not buy all of these books for £20? That sounds great. And I planned on reading them, and like I said, I read 2. I actually was doing jury service a couple of years ago and was sat around waiting for a while to see whether I'd be selected. So I binge read like 2 of them in the 2 days that I was sat in there, and then ended up actually getting busy that week and never picked the series back up again. And now I have, like I said, the entire box set of all of Percy Jackson and also all of Heroes of Olympus, and just haven't got around to picking them back up. I mean, there's plenty of other books on my shelf as well. My TBR shelves are all up here, and there are so many books on there. There's also the similar thing with the Maria Snyder Poison Study series. I also bought the full box set from the works, and that was like, I think it was £8 for all 6 books, and I'm like, why not? That's what I tend to do. If I go into a shop and they've got a box set of an entire series, it's a really good deal, I will buy it and then never read it. I'm trying to stop myself. I managed to stop myself buying the Game of Thrones box set like that, and I'm really glad I did because I know my reading taste a lot more now, and I will never pick that book series up. So I also stopped myself from doing it, which is, you know, progress. And then question 10 says, just to make you hate me a little bit more, how many unread books are on your shelf? Okay, I did a count just before I started filming, and I apparently have 160 unread books on my shelves, which I know isn't great. Like, if I'm reading on average, if I'm trying to read 100 books this year, and I already have 160 books on my physical TBR, because that's not even including what I've got on my Kindle, if I have 160 books on my physical TBR, and then I also haul on average about like 5 to 10 books every month, that's TBR's not going anywhere, is it? I have no excuse. Well, actually no, I do. So my excuse is I think there is a very different hobby between being a reader and a book collector, and I would say that I am both of those. So for example, there are some very beautiful editions of things that I have had for many years that I have not read, but I bought them because I knew that if I didn't buy them I would regret not having that beautiful edition, in the same way that I didn't buy that Daughter of Smoke and Bone book and now I've regretted it since, because if I would have just followed the book collector instincts I would have bought it and just been like, yeah, it's beautiful, it's fine. And now the reader in me has actually read it and loved it, and now both the book collector and the reader is very upset that I don't have it. So that's the reason why I have like the nice hardcover version of Starless Sea, because it's pretty. I haven't even read The Night Circus yet, and I know it's not a series, I know they're completely separate novels, but I would like to read The Night Circus before I read Starless Sea. I own both of them and have not read either of them, and I've owned them for years. Same with Priory of the Orange Tree. I've had Bone Season by Samantha Shannon for years, never got round to reading that, but then I went to York and Samantha Shannon was there, so I bought Priory of the Orange Tree so that I could have it signed. It's like a 900-page book about dragons. I don't know if I will ever read it, but I bought it because book collector. That's my excuse anyway. There we go. I have lots of unread books. I will maybe eventually get to them, we don't know. Also blame book subscription boxes, because all of my unread books down here pretty much are from book subscription boxes. So I'm getting better at that this year, and I'm making a point of reading the new ones as they come in, which reminds me I need to read this month. This book tag was supposed to be about frustrating things, it wasn't supposed to make me frustrated in the process. Anyway, that's everything for today's video. Please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff underneath. You'll also find all of the links to my social media, which I will try and get better at updating. I feel like at the end of every video I'm saying I'm going to do something better. So last time it was scheduling, this time it's updating social media. But thank you for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.